this file, I will create a new class vector. I will define a constructor function that accepts two optional arguments, x, which is equal to 0, and y, which is also equal to 0. Remember, these are the components of the vector. In this constructor function, I will set this dot x to be equal to x and this dot y will be equal to the y argument. We need to add methods on this class that will allow us to carry out vector operations, starting with vector additions. I will add a new method, add, which accepts an argument v, which is a vector. And my apologies for not using TypeScript to implement type safety. Inside this method, we will add the x component of the vector to the s component of the argument vector that we passed in, and we'll also do the same thing for the y component and return this from this function to allow for method chaining. I will add a sub method that will be responsible for vector subtraction. This method will accept an argument v, which is a vector, and inside this method I will subtract the x component of the vector from the s component of the argument. I will also do the same for the y component and return this from the function. I will add another method, scale, to handle scalar multiplication of vectors. This method will accept an argument x, which is an integer that we will use to multiply the components of the vector. Inside the function, I will multiply the s component of the vector with the x integer, and I will also multiply the y component of the vector with the same x integer. I will add a length method to the vector class which calculates the magnitude of the vector, just like we described earlier. And inside this function, we'll multiply the s component of the vector by itself, then add it to the result of multiplying the y component by itself, and then we'll now return the square root of that value, okay? Then I will add a normalized method, and inside this function, I will create a variable length which is equal to the result of calling this dot length. Then I will check if the length variable is greater than 0. And if that is the case, I will scale the vector using the length variable and return this from the function. Then I will add a copy method that allows us to create a new vector from the components of the current vector. Now we are done with implementing our vector class. I'm going to